So this lighting is going to be very bad for this video. I'm actually driving, so I'm not going to make any adjustments to it. For whatever reason, Boondocks came to my mind while I was driving, and I thought about how the characters kind of ran the gamut of every type of idiotic character in the black community, man. Like how you could kind of identify darn near everybody through a character on that show. You know, you start off with the youngest cat, you know, who's all in to the black subculture and willing to do whatever it takes to engage in it and be a part of it, regardless of his home situation, how sweet he has it. The fact that he doesn't have to grow up in the hood and deal with anything hood, he still desires the lifestyle, you know. Then you have the pro-black brother who kind of sees everything through a racial lens, which is like, you know, a kind of early interpretation of, you know, the CRT mindset. Then you have the old head brother who's still trying to be hip and cool and, you know, be a player with the ladies, but he comes from a background where he valued education. He valued education. He was actually fighting for true equality and against real racism in his earlier life, you know. So he flipped the script basically and just became a goofball. Then you got, you know, kind of like the far right cat who is right on a lot of accounts. I think about don't trust them new brothers over there with their fingers on the trigger. he kind of has a point, you know, with that, but at the same time, you know, he's way off the far right deep end and unable to see anything outside of that box that he's placed himself and his mentality in, you know. And earlier when I made the comment about CRT, thinking of that made me think about CRT and why I think that it shouldn't be taught in the schools, especially not to our children. And the reason why I'd start with, a lot of people like to put it under the guise of being taught history. We can have inclusion of history and just make history plain, you know, not some type of philosophical or ideological dive into how everything is connected to race, you know. My main issue with it is that we never look at what our most prevailing issues are. What's the most prominent issues that we have in the community? And whenever I think about assets and what's most important, lives are always on the top of that list. So, you know, as I talk about on any occasion I get the opportunity to, you have a culture in your community where life is in value and where people can very simply take it, you know, without busting a sweat, you know, barely having bad dreams, or maybe on the first one they do, but after that, they become accustomed and they're straight, you know. With time, when you're the leader and most killed people in the entire country, and also on the killing end as well, do you think that, you know, you should be focusing on a theoretical dive into how everything is connected to race? Like, is that your most prevalent issue? Is that your biggest problem facing you as a community or as a group of people? Another statistic, where girls, I'm talking about like not of consenting age to engage in sexual activity. Little girls, as far as little girls being molested, the national average is at about 25%, which is 1 in 4, which is extremely ridiculous. And that would indicate to me that everybody needs to be. If you could teach, if your goal with CRT is to like kind of kill out racist mentality or a desire to have inequality, we should be able to design some courses that could prevent people from becoming child molesters and or victims to it, and we can harp on that. When you have the national average of 1 out of 4, and then in your community you're dealing with 40%, which is almost half of your girls of girls that have black skin, what would they call people of color, are the most are the largest, the majority of girl victims of child molestation. Why don't we have a deep dive into that? When we have issues with reading, which greatly determines your success in life in any facet, in any industry, anything that you undertake. When we have people that are failing in mathematics and things of that nature, what is more important to be able to see a theory? It's called theory. It's a theory to test out theories or to make sure that our lives are preserved. Number one, when we start preserving all of our lives, when our black lives actually do matter, so do the sanctity of our children, and not being put through traumatic experience of being introduced through to sex before they even have an idea of what intimacy is. You know what I'm saying? What's more important between a theoretical way of seeing race or protecting our children from child molestation? Like, if we're going to look into what needs correcting, and we're going to do it by importance, then that theoretical way of looking at race is going to fall. It should fall with a person with common sense. It should, to a person with common sense, it should fall to the bottom of the level of importance as far as things that need to be instructed. Parenting courses to start with. Also, de-escalation courses for our actual children. Resolving conflict, things of that nature. These are the things that lead to death. Suppressing or negative emotions, teaching them how to get through. You look at a show like Daniel Tiger, they're teaching kids already. That's the education that's important. To other communities. How do we learn how to live together and do it harmonious? You know what I'm saying? So that's something I believe that should be in our educational system. We need to unlearn. Start with the youngest of a generation, start in preschool, as soon as you can get them into a building, and start them to detoxing from that toxic energy that is in the heart of a lot of black men and women that cause them to see each other with hate, to be ready, willing, and able at any time to hurt, maim, or even end the life of people that look like them. You know, those are some things that we should be looking into, which are far more important. And I guess that's something that we really need to start doing. Like, what is important? Like, where should we concentrate our resources and our energy? You know, where it has the greatest effect. You know, when you're losing people, like when you're like Philadelphia, you lose 500 people and at the end of November, which means, of course, you're going to eclipse that. You know, city like Chicago that had what, between 750 and 770 something, or maybe 780 homicides on last year. National spikes in violence where black people were killed at a greater rate than anybody. Black men number one and black women number two. You know, where should your focus be? And I believe that's something that we should start considering. Before we get into the theoretical stuff, let's start and stick with the concrete stuff that we have decades of experience and information, data, you know, statistics that we can look at. Let's knock that out, and then we can start thinking about something theoretical, because the way I see it, we don't have time for that right now. At any rate, that's the close of this video. Like, comment, subscribe if you want. If you don't, appreciate you listening. Don't just throw the information away and be like, oh man, you know, he got some great points, and just leave it at that. You know, don't join the culture of black people that are annoyed by the fact that, you know, annoyed by hearing about the fact that our kids die on a greater basis than anybody else. Be somebody that does something about it. All right, take action based on this information and change your neighborhood. All right, I'm out, man. Peace.